Hello, and welcome to your Astro Tarot forecast for the week of May 26th to June 1st. I am Michelle Shea Walker, and this is your glass half full perspective on the week ahead. If you're a paid subscriber or if you tipped your reader this week, be sure to stick around to the end to see if you won the personalized reading. So, we are diving into a week that is transitioning the months. We are getting some really cool energy still trickling in from last week. If you've been paying attention to the previous readings or if you've been watching on my Instagram, one of my favorite astrological movements that happened last week was on Saturday when Saturn moved into Aries. So I want to remind you that that energy is hearkening back to whatever type of energy you were diving into around 1996 to 1998 and a little bit into 1999. The planet goes retrograde but for a while and then comes back into Aries. So there's a little bit of a break in 1998 into 1999. But during that timeline of your life, that 2 to 3 year period, whatever age group or manifestation of your life you were in, there might be similar themes coming up while Saturn is in Aries. And Saturn's in his Aries again for a couple years. So it's going to be a time period to explore what for most of us is an inner child aspect of things and reflect upon what that version of us, what little us wants us to do in this lifetime. And that's going to continue to echo through the coming months and the coming years. So even though that was astrology that happened last week, it's really influencing a lot of the energy that we're moving into this week. So I want you to not just put that in your back pocket and forget about it. That's still influencing the stars and the cards. But if you're new here, I'm going to do a day by day reading Monday through Sunday of the astrology and a tarot card for each day of the week. After that, I will do the personalized reading drawing. If you're interested in joining for that, becoming a paid subscriber on Substack or clicking one of the links below to leave me a tip of appreciation, we'll enter you into next week's reading. Paid subscribers get entered into all of the readings for the month that they're subscribed. Tippers get entered in for the week that they send a tip. And Bane really wants you to enter. I don't know if you heard that, but my baby boy black cat just really wanted that to be known that he thinks that that's a good idea. So without further ado, we'll dive into our astrology and our cards, starting with Monday, May 26th. So Monday, May 26th, we have a new moon. So always big news of the month. The new moon is a great time to be manifesting things for yourself. And it's in Gemini. So it is good for community, like your innermost, small town, small neighborhood community, closer community as opposed to the global community. And it's good for communication. It's good for a lot of other things too, but those are the two buzzwords that want to come forward for me today. And then it's also good for whatever area of your life you find a Gemini in your chart. So if you're new around here, the way that we find the houses, or the way that I like to find the houses, there are two different ways. One's mathematical, one's a little easier. I like the easier method because it resonates more for me in my own personal chart. But you find your rising sign, and if you don't know your birth time, I'm sorry, you don't know your rising sign, so you're not going to be able to use this method. But if you do know your rising sign, that is house 1. Then you can count around the zodiac from whatever your rising sign is, and you can find out a number value for every single one of the zodiac signs. And then anytime a planet moves into that sign, you can check that number, find out what that house rules, and it will indicate to you what area of your life that energy is going to be most affecting. So for me, Gemini is in my 5th house. So it's about pleasure and sensuality and creativity. And that is what this new moon is coming in to help me manifest more of. So if you want a little more insight into what the Gemini new moon is best for manifesting for you personally, and you know your birth time, check that out. Find out what house Gemini is in, and that's going to give you sort of an area of focus. You can still manifest stuff in other areas of your life during the new moon, but it's going to be really powerful for whatever area you find Gemini is in the house of. So we have that happening in the astrology. You manifest in 6-month cycles. So we're finally out of eclipse season. I'm a big fan of using the new moon as your manifestation energy. So every time a new moon comes around each month, you can check in with your life goals, your dreams, your desires, and you can ask yourself, what do I want my life to look like 6 months from now? And then best manifestation practices is to sit down and write in the first person present tense what you 6 months from now will be able to say because of your manifestations underneath this new moon. So rather than saying 6 months from now, I will have, or I will do, or I will be, you write it as if you're already existing in that reality. And that just creates a little quantum shift. And hopefully you can look back on it 6 months from now and you can see what you successfully manifested. And then sometimes you can see stuff that you're really glad didn't manifest, that wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be. And the universe is kind of protecting you by not letting it manifest. Or you can realign your goals to better line up with those manifestations. So it's not only a great practice like magically to do manifestations, it's also just a great practice psychologically to be able to look at what goals aren't happening for you on a regular basis and then ask yourself, okay, what do I need to do to better align with these goals so that these manifestations start happening? Our card for the day is really beautiful for doing some really life-changing manifestations because it's the Eight of Swords. So the Eight of Swords can sometimes hint to some limiting beliefs. It's a feeling of being stuck when you're not actually as stuck as your brain is telling you you are. So if you see the image in most of the traditional cards and in this modern witch tarot deck, we have an individual tied up in ropes, blindfolded, and surrounded by swords, but they don't realize that the ropes really aren't that tight. And if they could see outside the blindfold, there's this little pathway right in front of them to walk through the swords. So it feels like a really treacherous and hopeless situation that you find yourself in sometimes with the Eight of Swords, but it actually is really hopeful because you hold all the power here. All you have to do is choose to take off the blindfold, to see things from a different perspective, and to recognize that you have the power to unstick yourself, to shimmy out of the ropes and to walk through the swords and to escape this so-called prison that you find yourself in. So do not let those self-defeating thoughts get to you. Think of things from a different perspective. How can you become your own rescuer? This is the opposite of damsel in distress energy. This is you are now the knight in shining armor for yourself, and you are going to figure out how to save yourself. So if you're feeling stuck underneath this Gemini new moon, it's going to be a really powerful time period to realign yourself with thoughts that make you the hero of your story, the heroine of your story, and to stop playing the victim. That's the biggest message I'm getting from this card. You are not the victim. I personally am not a fan of victim mentality in any situation. We always have power, even if we were in a situation that we had no control of. We have power on our perspective and the way that we move forward from those situations. So that is what this card is telling us. You hold the power. I just reposted a meme that was like the Labyrinth song, Babe with the Power. So that's playing in my head now as well. So you are the babe with the power. So be the babe with the power and walk your butt out of whatever situation you find yourself stuck in. And it may take time. Again, manifestations happen in 6-month cycles. So don't expect to decide that you're going to get unstuck and get defeated if you don't get unstuck tomorrow. It's a process. It's steps. Take the first step forward. So in this case, first step forward is just to unblindfold yourself so that you can see the situation more clearly. Then it's to shimmy out of the ropes. Then it's to walk through the swords. And then it's to figure out where you want to go from there. So take it one step at a time and recognize that the fruits of your labor might take about 6 months to manifest. But if you take the first steps now, you're going to have those manifestations coming in that much sooner. So on Tuesday, May 27th, we have Mercury trine Pluto. So the planet of communication is meeting up with a lucky little triangle with Pluto, the planet of change, transformation, and big global generational changes. So use your words to your advantage on Tuesday. Oh, backing up to Monday real quick. Sorry if this is affecting your timestamps as you're watching. We do have Mercury sextile Neptune on Monday before the Gemini new moon. And I do feel like I wanted to note that because I think it is going to be a really good time to get a little dreamy with the way that you're communicating. So you might actually be doing your manifestation list earlier in the afternoon, and then the actual new moon energy comes about around 10:02 p.m. Central Standard Time in America. And that then you can just kind of do whatever ritual or new moon witchy shit you want to do, and you can move forward from there. So that is Monday. Tuesday, we have that same Mercury planet now meeting up with Pluto, which is big change. So it's like Monday's kind of daydreaming about the future and the shifts that you're going to make. And then Tuesdays, maybe having a little window to communicate something about those changes. So if you need help with something that you're trying to manifest, you can reach out to other parties to help you out. If you just need to communicate something, a desire, an intention to the outside world, do that. I'm getting sort of imageries of like publicly stating an intention for something can be really powerful on Tuesday, of, like holding yourself accountable by saying, hey, I will be doing this in the next 6 months time. And like, maybe you don't do it like on Instagram to like strangers, but maybe you do it to like your closest friends or your family or your coworkers. And you say, hey, I want you to hold me accountable. I am going to be doing this over the next 6 months. Please check in with me and see how things are going so that I can kind of have something that's tapping back into ensuring that I'm on the right track. The card for the day is the Two of Pentacles reversed. So Two of Pentacles upright is usually we're juggling different aspects of our life. This one, I got a feeling of like there's a ball that needs to drop. There's a feeling that in order to really focus on one manifestation that you're really wanting to call in, you have to let something go for at least a while. So there's a really great metaphor that I heard someone in the public eye say, and it was like someone who was, like the have it all metaphor that women are all often grappling with, children, career, like whatever. And it was to recognize that when you're trying to hold a lot of balls in the air, some of the balls are made of glass and some of them are made of plastic. And if you are juggling, you will have to let some of the balls drop on occasion. So you just recognize which ones are glass that you absolutely cannot drop, and you drop the ones that are made of plastic. So that's the energy that I'm getting from this card. Like there are some things that you're trying to juggle right now that are plastic balls, and they will survive if you drop them for a while. There are other things you're trying to juggle right now that are glass balls, and you do not want to drop those. So sacrifice the plastic balls for the time being. Know that they'll be safe and sound and you can pick them up later, and really focus in on the glass balls, some things that are really, really important to you, the things that are really fragile at this moment, the things that just really need to get done first, and then come back to the other stuff because you know that you can drop it without breaking it. So that's the metaphor for Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have relatively quiet astrology, so we always default to the card, and the card is a beautiful card. It is the Ten of Cups. So the Ten of Cups is sort of a manifestation, like dream world. It's like making sure that you recognize and celebrate the way that your dreams are coming true. So you might find that there are tricklings of opportunities coming in already on Wednesday, and the goal here is to really be grateful for the things that are going right. So it's a lot about like community in particular. So like if you have family around you, friends around you, coworkers around you, supportive energies, if you have people in your corner in your career that are working for you, like agents or PR reps or, whatever, depending on your careers, there's this feeling of like people are putting good word out there for you. And that's something to be grateful for because that is going to bring in more opportunity. So I'm getting a big word of mouth energy from this card. So the thing that I have to say about Wednesday is make sure that you are treating everyone with value and respect. Because it does feel like it's an energy of the people that you don't think can actually help move you forward have more power than you're giving them credit for. So this is almost like a feeling of like being on a movie set and disregarding like the assistant, the PA. And then down the line, that PA becomes a director that could put an actor in their movie. And so if an actor has dismissed him as a PA, they may not have an opportunity to be in the movie later. Like that's the energy that I'm getting. So it's not going to apply literally to most people's situations, but that feeling of like, don't disregard someone just because they don't currently hold value for you. First of all, just because we're all human beings. So like, let's just recognize the humanness and the value of that in everyone around us. But also there is an element of like, people will surprise you of what they have to be able to offer you. down the line if you are kind and if you show them respect in a time period that other people might not. So that's an interesting energy to come through for the Ten of Cups, but that's the big message that I'm getting from this card. As we move into Thursday, we have a Mercury Cazimi. So I know if you've been here, you know that I love Cazimis. It's my new obsession. It's when the sun lines up with a particular planet. And basically, it's the sun is just shining a big old bright light on the energy of that planet and intensifying it. So it's almost like when you're reading through a book and you highlight a line of the page, like it's the highlighter of that planet's energy at the moment. And Mercury is currently in what sign? Mercury just moved into Gemini last week. So Mercury is currently in Gemini. So again, we have a lot of Gemini coming through this week. So if you do know what house Gemini is in, that area of your life is going to be highlighted this week by both the new moon, manifesting new things in that area, and then Mercury in Gemini is going to really intensify your ability to communicate in that area of your life in a way that feels really clear and really lucky for you. So yeah, there is a possibility of things moving quickly this week. Like if you can get your butt in order on Monday with those manifestations and with like getting a little dreamy with that list that you want to make and how you want your life to look 6 months from now, it feels like there could be opportunities coming in as soon as Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So get your ducks in a row. And if there's anything in regards to, so here's the thing I want to say, kind of backing up to Monday's manifestation energy. When you make your manifestation list, if you want to take it a step further after writing that story in the present tense of your future 6 months from now, I want you to reverse engineer that and work backwards in your mind as to, okay, that's where I ended up. How did I get there? And as you work backwards, like try to get yourself back to the first step that you made and start taking those steps this week. Because I do think that the sooner you get moving on those manifestations and whatever you can do right now, the sooner the rest of the world is going to show up for you. And it could be very quickly. So that's really exciting energy and quite frankly, pretty on par with sort of the momentum of Gemini season that I spoke of last week when the sun moved into Gemini. So things could happen quickly, but you have to be prepared. Like when luck is preparation meeting opportunity. So you're doing the preparation this week. And if you do the preparation this week, the opportunity will come together and it'll feel like a really lucky event because you were prepared. So the card for Thursday is the Knight of Wands, reversed. So while we do have Mercury Cazimi shining a little bit of luck and light on this idea of communicating in the area of our life that Gemini is in the house of, or just communicating in general, some sort of dream, some sort of message that you have for the world, there's an element of letting go of any false imagery. And I think this is twofold. I think it's like, don't show up for the world in a way that is like you trying to present a facade that you think a successful version of yourself looks like. Like, make sure you're showing up authentically. But also, there's another thought that just like floated onto my brain. So it must not have resonated for someone that was listening. The more important message must have been like you not presenting a falsified self. But then there can be an element of like being aware of other people presenting a falsified self and like not letting inauthentic energy into your realm. And in particular, I'm getting a little message of like only sharing your ideas with people that you're certain are going to be supportive of them. And not in sort of like a yes man way, but like, especially when ideas and dreams are really in their like baby seedling type of stage, we want to only introduce them or share them with people that are going to help put more nourishment into those seeds, into those ideas. At least until they become mature enough to stand on their own, because you don't want someone like stomping through the garden when the seedlings aren't mature enough to kind of bounce back from that sort of energy. So it's not that you never expose yourself to criticism. It's that you don't expose it to criticism so early that the little seedling doesn't even have a chance of survival. If it gets stomped on, you want to wait until you feel like it's kind of like grown a little bit and blossomed a little bit, and it can kind of bounce back from any sort of criticism that comes your way, and then you can take the criticism in a more open-minded way. So that's also coming through with this card. But also, more importantly, you show up in an authentic way. Don't try to play a character that you think you're supposed to be. Be yourself. And that's going to be the most authentic way to communicate to the outside world. So moving into Friday, quieter astrology. Interesting energy for the card. We have the Three of Swords reversed. So this feels very much like a healing for sure. And there was an element of like the imagery that I got was like the metaphor or the allegory of the lion with a thorn stuck in its paw and the mouse removing the thorn. And I don't even remember the specifics of that story, but when this card literally flew out of the deck and fell on the floor when I was shuffling, that's what came forward. So there's an element of healing here that you might have to open up. Okay, there's two elements. It could be that you are the healee that has to be willing to open up and be vulnerable in the face of something that you would normally feel more powerful than. So maybe there's someone that you have to be vulnerable in front of that you wouldn't normally think had the power to heal you, but they do. Or it could be that you are challenging someone else to allow you to rise to the occasion. Even though you might be the tiny mouse, you actually do have the power to help and heal the lion with a thorn stuck in his paw. Again, we're coming back to an idea of like not underestimating the people around you and not sort of writing people off based on their appearance or their perceived power. So that is a big message for someone this week between our 10 of Cups, not disregarding the PA on set because they might one day be a director, but also like this idea of like people can surprise you. So I think there's a little combination of the energy in the end of the week that's like, don't present a false sense of self and don't let inauthentic people in your realm. But if you're surrounding yourself with authentic people, don't disregard someone's ability to help you or be there for you or show up in a way that you might think that they're not capable or ready for, because they might surprise you. So that's an interesting message, and I'm very curious to see how that shows up for us this week. Moving into Saturday, May 31st, we have very quiet astrology. We have the Strength card reversed. So I think after this healing that's happening on Friday, we might need a little downtime. The Strength card still has a lot of inner strength, but it may not be the best day to be really putting yourself out there in the world. Like it may be kind of like a retreat to your corner and lick your wounds type energy, and not in a defeated way, but just in a way of like, I recognize that I need to heal before the next round. So that's the biggest message I'm getting here. And I think that's as far as I need to say, because that feels like the most important part. Moving into Sunday and also moving into June 1st, we have a Venus conjunct Chiron. So Venus is the planet of love, beauty, aesthetic. It's also the planet of a little bit of creativity. Chiron is our wounded healer. So there's a little like, again, we have this aspect of like a glimmer of hope coming through some sort of pain. There's a feeling of being able to, I keep getting like gardening metaphor imageries coming in my head. So it's like the decay of like the mushrooms or the decay of fallen leaves, the wounds of our past are the fertilizer for the growth of our present. And so with Venus is almost coming through in the image of like a sprout coming up through the decay of fallen leaves or decayed wood or what have you. Like the elements of our past that we feel like are kind of like darker and wounded and breaking apart are actually causing the nourishment for the growth that we need right now. So this is very good energy for like art, made from your past pain, like creating something beautiful from past painful occurrences. Like poetry is a really great example of that. Like there's an element of being able to find the beauty, to find the silver lining, to find, all of those cliche metaphors, but it's because of the pain that you're able to find that beauty. So being really grateful and thankful for those pain points of your past, because you can now create something really beautiful and transformative in your present. The card of the day is Justice upright. So this is our first upright major arcana card. So this really does feel like we're like moving things forward come June. And justice is about karma and the reward of like everyone getting their just desserts. So I think that Venus opposite Chiron is like you are being rewarded for making your way through the pain of your past and creating something beautiful from it. And also it's a message to like make sure your side of the street is clean. So, make sure that you're not dwelling on the pain of your past and blaming others. Like we always have some sort of play in whatever occurs to us. Something in our energy is inviting in all of the energy that we find in our life. And that's not to be like a victim blaming mentality. It's not. It's that you're accepting certain treatments from the outside world. And the more that you grow and the more that you heal and the more that you embody your wounded healer and you learn to mature and honor your self-worth, the less you are going to allow people to treat you in ways that devalues you. And that's just a beautiful lesson of life, but sometimes a painful lesson. And so this is telling us that like, if you want to create beauty from your past pain, you have to own up to what needed to be healed within you that originally called in those painful experiences in the first place. And then that's the beautiful part, because then you can use that lesson to create that art, to like give that lesson in a beautiful, poetic way to the outside world so that others can benefit from your knowledge and from your past heartache. Wow, that was a heavier end of the week than I was expecting, but a beautiful one. So I hope that resonated for most of you listening, or at least if it resonated with one person listening, I'm okay with that. I myself watch back on these readings throughout the week just to kind of get a day by day insight of what's happening and see how it's showing up in my world. So I encourage you to do that. If anything in particular resonates, please always feel welcome to leave a comment about an experience or message me privately about an experience, because I am definitely here for showing up for you and helping you just kind of be able to translate what's happening in the cosmos and boil it down to something that you can use in your personal experience. And speaking of personal experience, we're now going to move into our personal reading, which again is from anyone who's a paid Substack subscriber or anyone who tipped their reader this week. And I just plug it into a random name generator online. I have no control over what this does. I literally just click a button, it spins a wheel against all the names, and a name comes up. So yes, we do have repeat names quite often because we have smaller numbers of people that are being drawn from. And this week we have Holly, who I think is on her third win of reading this week. But the more important thing is that I always set the intention that if you feel called to watch this reading, there will be something there for you. Trust your intuition if that's the case, because if you are deciding to watch the rest of this reading that is technically for Holly, your intuition is telling you to watch it for a reason. So even if you are not directly relating to the cards that come up for her, there will be a message here for you. So Holly, we've got some good energy coming your way. I've got some really interesting things coming up already in relation to the fact that we are in Gemini season. And because Holly is my real life bestie, I know that her rising sign is Gemini. And that feels like it's going to be really important for like letting you shine. Oh, and we got some cards calling out of the deck already. So let me reach down and get those. Woo! Okay, we got a past and a present. I'm going to find a future and we'll go from there. Oh, we got another one falling out the deck. Hang on. Trying not to bump the table or spill my tea. Ooh, Okay, so Holly, or anyone else that feels called to watch this reading. The past card energy coming through is the Ten of Pentacles. And that's a beautiful card. It means that you have created a really stable support system for yourself. The Ten of Pentacles is kind of the ultimate manifestations when it comes to home and family and pets and a stable financial environment and a stable home place. And you found your roots, is basically what the Ten of Pentacles is saying. And that feels like it's going to come in really handy as we move into these other cards. The present card is the Devil card reversed. So kind of similar to how we started this week with our Eight of Swords. I always think of the Eight of Swords as like the minor arcana version of the Devil card. Very similar messages because it's about recognizing that you can walk away from things that aren't serving you at any time. And this being reversed is like intensifying that message. It also could be saying that it's an internal thought pattern that you're walking away from. This feels actually very rooted in generational karma. So this could be a heavier week that's coming forward with the idea that there are patterns that are sort of in your ancestral line, probably going back centuries, that you're being called to be a cycle breaker for. So I'm going to hold space for that because that is not an easy feat. But I do think that there are conversations around family that you and I have had on a personal level. And I think that is relating to this card, that there's something coming up in your life right now that is showing you the patterns from previous generations that you are no longer wishing to repeat. And I think it's going to be something that's going to come forward pretty clear for you because you're a Taurus sun sign and I trust your intuition because you're intuitive. Yeah. It's almost so I'll say this in the present moment, be really mindful of any unconscious life goals that you're chasing. Because a lot of times this energy, this ancestral cycle breaker energy will show up as a thing that like we've never even questioned that we wanted or that we were supposed to become because it was so ingrained in ourselves. So it's kind of like that patriarchal story of like women are supposed to want to be mothers and caretakers. And if they don't, society wants to think that there's something wrong with them. And a lot of people have found themselves in that life and realized that that's not actually that they wanted, it's what they were told that they wanted. And so there is something in your life that you've maybe been chasing for a while that is suddenly coming about that it actually isn't your desire. It was a desire that was like ingrained into you in like almost your DNA because generations and generations of women in your family line thought that they wanted this thing. And then now you are the cycle breaker saying, no, that's actually not what I want. And I'm going to choose something different. And it's going to free up the energy of generations and generations of women that felt trapped in a certain life. Whew. So there's that. The future is the Emperor reversed. So I think that one of the things you're being called to do is turn your inner divine masculine up a notch. Like, I'm kidding, Spinal Tap. You take it up to 11. Like the dial's going to go up to 11. So this could be dealing with sort of like patriarchal mindsets of partnership and the way that men and women partner up and what a man is supposed to be to a woman and what a woman is supposed to be to a man. But boiling it down to something that you can kind of conceptualize for yourself, it's about recognizing your own ability to show up as the masculine energy for yourself without having to rely on it from the outside world. And that doesn't mean that you don't have masculine energy in your life that you can rely on, but the universe is challenging you to step up your game so that if you didn't have masculine energy in your life that you could rely on, you could be your own masculine support system. And the best way that I can say this is I always like to have this be a practice of, especially when I'm talking to people that are, a feminine identifying energy that partners up with masculine identifying energy, it can be a tendency to be really attracted to people because they possess things that you don't think you possess. And the way that we embody more of our own divine masculine and integrate the divine masculine energy for ourselves is to start to see those things as a mirror to what we want and what we want to obtain and what we want to grow within ourselves. So it can be something really simple. For myself, I've been in past relationships where the person that I was with was really handy. And one of the best ways that I sort of reclaimed my own divine masculine was like after that breakup, I was super proud of myself just for like hanging up curtain rods and hanging up shelves and doing things with power tools. And like it seems so simple, but it really is reclaiming a part of yourself that's been waiting to be reclaimed. And that's why we find these elements of our partners so attractive, because we don't feel like we possess them, or maybe that we're even allowed to possess them. So look at your current partnerships and previous partnerships and ask yourself, like, what was I so attracted to this person for? Like, what qualities in them made me want to be like, oh, I need them in my life? And how can I be that? And again, it's not necessarily to like not need people or not want people in your life. It's to be more complete within yourself, because that's the ultimate goal. We are here to find our inner union more so than our outer union. And ultimately, we can't find a really joyful and unconditionally loving outer union until we find our inner union. So do it for the sake of unconditional love that starts within you and then spreads into your exterior relationships. All right, let's see. I'm going to do it underneath the deck just because I'm curious. 7 of Cups. There are a lot of options available to you at this time. And I think that this is coming back to this Devil card reverse and these breaking of generational cycles, like recognizing that the path that's always been done before you is not the only path. And there's not even just one other path. There's like 7 other paths in front of you, and you get to choose what it looks like. It doesn't have to look like anything that came before in your generational line or in the history of humankind. It can be incredibly and uniquely custom made for you. But you have to have the courage to walk away from the things that you don't actually want and to ask for the things that you do want and to create the life that you deserve. I love you. I hope that this reading serves you well. And for anyone that's watching, have a beautiful, wonderful week. And I will see you again next week.